Hey y'all, welcome. We are on day 32 of our 90 days in the Psalm. I appreciate you following along with me. Today we have 3 Psalms, but before we get into it, you know the drill. Please like, share, comment, subscribe to my page. Thank you for your continued feedback. Thank you for your continued watching and sharing of these videos. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start with Psalm 62, and this is from the New King James Version. Truly my soul silently waits for God. From him comes my salvation. He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be greatly moved. How long will you attack a man? You shall be slain, all of you, like a leaning wall and a tottering fence. They only consult to cast him down from his high position. They delight in lies. They bless with their mouth, but they curse inwardly. Selah. My soul waits silently for God alone, for my expectation is from him. He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be moved. In God is my salvation and my glory, the rock of my strength. And my refuge is in God. Trust in him at all times, you people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us. Surely men of low degree are a vapor. Men of a high degree are a lie. If they are weighed on the scales, they altogether lighter than vapor. Do not trust in oppression, nor vainly hope in robbery. If riches increase, do not set your heart on them. God has spoken once, twice I have heard this, that power belongs to God. Also to you, O Lord, belongs mercy, for you render to each one according to his work. Alright, so the New King James Version actually titles this psalm A Calm Resolve to Wait for the Salvation of God. And I think that's just beautiful. To me, this is a psalm that should be read to bring peace and calmness to our hearts and our minds. And over the past few days, we have seen David address his enemies, yet he has done so in a way that glorifies God. And whatever he is saying about these enemies, he is sandwiching kind of in between his view of God, which really does have the effect of magnifying God and squashing down the issue or the problem that he is facing. So we see in this psalm twice, the first 2 verses, it's a refrain and it says, "Truly my soul silently waits for God. From him comes my salvation. He only is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense, and I shall not be greatly moved." There is such a calmness and a confidence in these statements that he states, truly my soul silently waits. And it's like, to me, it's like no, really. I am at a place of peace that I can wait and I can stand still knowing that I'm going to see what God is going to do for me next. And then David kind of shifts into speaking to God about these 4 different kinds of safeties. And he says, my rock. He says, my salvation. He says, my defense. And then in verse 7, he uses my refuge. And although all 4 of these do display safety, I kind of see a difference in them. The rock is like a cliff, right? So not only does it bring safety because of its height, but it also brings safety because there are crevices, kind of little nooks that one could settle in to be safe. While as the salvation, it is a type of safety, but it comes from more of deliverance and victory over the enemy. And then we have defense, and to me that's more of a man-made structure, a man-made defense, kind of like a fortress or a tower. And so it's more of a a built-up defense. And then finally, refuge is more of a hiding place, like a cave, somewhere you can kind of sneak to and hide in. So I was looking at these 4 different kinds of hiding, these 4 different types of safety, and I was just kind of thinking a little bit about how God is each one. To me, they're slightly different. They have a slightly different meaning, but all of them convey this safety. So I encourage you also to think about how God is each of these 4 ways to you in your life. And so let's go ahead and go into my revelation for this. It comes from one of my favorite verses in this psalm, and that is David's call to us in verse 8. It says, "Trust in him at all times, you people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us." And I think David is the perfect example here of trusting in God at all times, right? In sin, in trouble, in victory, in joy, in desperation, and that God deserves our praise regardless of what is going on. And so the message that we are to pour out our heart to God, not just our feelings, not just our thoughts, but our deepest senses, our innate happenings in our heart, that we are to lay that out before God as well. And then the statement that God is our refuge is not a separate statement from this. It's saying that we should trust him, that we should be able to pour out our hearts, knowing that he is the one safe place to do so, and that we can let our guards down around him. We can breathe a sigh of relief when we're with him, knowing that he's going to take everything we pour out to him, and he's going to hold it, and he's going to do good with it, and we will never be let down. And we are supposed to see God as this reprieve in this dark world with everything going on right now. Not only does he desire for us to do that, but there is a reward in us doing that. And that is why intimacy with God is so important. That is why prayer time with God is so important. So that he can be glorified, and so also so that we can feel that calmness, so that we can sit still and say, I'm going to wait because I know God's going to come through in this situation. All right, let's move on to our next psalm, Psalm 63, and I am reading from the Living Bible. O God, my God, how I search for you, how I thirst for you in this parched and weary land where there is no water. How I long to find you, how I wish I could go into your sanctuary to see your strength and glory. For your love and kindness are better to me than life itself. How I praise you. I will bless you as long as I live, lifting up my hands to you in prayer. At last I shall be fully satisfied. I will praise you with great joy. I lie awake at night thinking of you, of how much you have helped me, and how I rejoice through the night beneath the protecting shadow of your wings. I follow close behind you, protected by your strong right arm. But those plotting to destroy me shall go down to the depths of hell. They are doomed to die by the sword, to become the food of jackals. But I will rejoice in God. All who trust in him exult, while liars shall be silenced. So we know this psalm was written while David was fleeing. It's argued whether he was fleeing from Saul at this time or he was fleeing from his son Absalom. But we do know that it was written at a point when David was either in the wilderness or in the desert. So there's not a lot lost in translation here, especially with the version that I use. So we're going to move straight into my revelation. And one of the beautiful parts of this psalm is that David uses this imagery and very strong words to describe his affection for and his relationship with God. David talks about a thirsting and a longing. He talks about being under the shadow of his wings, following close behind, protected by God's right arm. It may seem a little cheesy or a little too, intimate for us, but I think this is such a desirable relationship to have with God. And I think further, it's an example of how close God is to us, right? That he is omnipresent. He is near to both me and you all at once. And, God is not this far away God. He is not millions of light years away. He is close to us. And David's words here are not just imagery. He understood that as we draw near to God, God draws near to us. And that's what we need to understand as well. Draw near, and I will draw nearer to you. All right. So let's go ahead. We're going through these quickly, but we're going to go into Psalm 64, and I'm going back to the New King James Version. Hear me, my God, as I voice my complaint. Protect my life from the threat of the enemy. Hide me from the conspiracy of the wicked, from the plots of the evildoers. They sharpen their tongues like swords and aim cruel words like deadly arrows. They shoot from ambush at the innocent. They shoot suddenly without fear. They encourage each other in evil plans. They talk about hiding their snares. They say, "Who will see it?" They plot injustice and say, "We have devised a perfect plan." Surely the human mind and heart are cunning. But God will shoot them with his arrows. They will suddenly be struck down. He will turn their own tongues against them and bring them to ruin. All who see them will shake their heads in scorn. All the people will fear. They will proclaim the works of God and ponder what he has done. The righteous will rejoice in the Lord and take refuge in him. All the upright in heart will glorify in him. All right, so we've switched back. David is back at it again, saying some pretty vicious things about his enemies, and I'm sure they were warranted. It's interesting to me, and I know I've talked about this before, that we can go from a psalm in which God receives most of the attention to going to a psalm in which the enemy gets all of the attention. And to me, it shows the human mind, the wavering back and forth, and just how volatile we really can be. So unironically, I'm actually going to talk about the enemy for my revelation here, and I want to talk about what David says about the tongue. He talks about words and deception and slander and gossip and so on. And so once again, I'm going to reiterate that this psalm isn't just a psalm of wisdom. It's a psalm of warning that we do not carry out the things that David is talking about here. So he describes the tongue as a sword and the words as arrows, and that they are just shooting without aiming, without warning, without any fear of consequences, right? And David makes it a point to say they aim at the innocent. And the first thing I thought of when I read this was Proverbs 8:18, right? Life and death are in the power of the tongue. And then in verse 6, he says, surely the human mind and heart are cunning, which means that humans hold deception and these mysterious thoughts, even to the point of not knowing that it's there. So again, this is a point of introspection for us. When I speak, what is coming out? Is this a lie that I'm speaking, even though I haven't purposely created it? Is there some sort of deception lying in my heart that I'm speaking things that are not truthful? It's a little deep, but I think we can grasp it if we understand that we were born into sin, into a fallen world, and that these things are in us. And we just have to be mindful when we speak that we aren't uttering words that are maybe not intended to, but have a product of offending someone, of cutting someone down, of slandering, of gossip. I think we are all guilty of committing one of those things. We might have said it without even planning on doing it, but it came out and we hurt people that we love because of it. And that just shows that oftentimes we speak without thinking. Oftentimes our emotions grab hold of our words and we are speaking out of turn. We are speaking in a way that is not so godly. So that's something to think about. And to be sure that I'm not ending on this note of sin, I just want to say too that David ends with the upright in heart will glorify him. I think this is circular here, the upright in heart and the glorifying him, in that as we glorify him, as we remain in the position of glorifying him, we know him better, we understand him better, and our hearts become more aligned with him, and we are pulled into an upright position through our glorifying of him. And so it becomes this circle of glorifying and standing a little bit more upright, and glorifying and doing a little bit better. So it's a circle. So make sure that you are making it a habit to glorify God in everything you do. All right, thank you for joining me on today. Remember to share your thoughts and comments. I want to hear from you. I will see you all on tomorrow. Bye.